JJ McCarthy, our buddy JJ. All right, I'm going to cut Caleb Williams. I like her. I won't say not in the height, but I think right now I'm going to go with the field as a
What's going on, Bobby? Good, you? Thank you. All right. Hold that. Can I get a pen from you? I'll just get a couple of this.
Come in and do what all the other rookie quarterbacks couldn't do in their first 2 years. You said over a 4-year span. Which team is going to be
Okay.
so now I'm looking at maybe. We're not even sure Kirk Cousins. I'm not Kirk Cousins, but Mike Penix. That's the field, right?
Yeah, right.
So he counts. JJ McCarthy counts. Counts.
Yeah.
Okay. Getsy.
Yeah, Jaden Daniels. I don't know, man. Gotta see. Got up there.
Great job, Kirk.
You got it, man. Appreciate it, guy. That's all for that. Kirk Morrison here for the Rich Eisen Show.
Oh, honey, it's our favorite leak filter trusted pro map.
All right, yeah, why don't we, we'll do what's happening, everyone? We'll do Getsy and Graham in the first segment. I'm going to try to, so we're not having, that guest is over the phone, Bayless.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we're going to move Levi Edwards to 120. Ooh.
And every lead filter installation comes with a lifetime warranty.
So it's not just us?
We don't want anyone to worry about clogged gutters ever again.
You mean everyone gets this level of service?
All right, who's here, man? Cisco's here. Yeah, Cisco played golf with Steve Gomez yesterday and the team from Modelo. They played with Charles Woodson. I was playing with Thayer Mumford. I got a lot to say about him. He's a cool guy. Real cool guy. August 10th promos for the Raiders on the road, huh? Let's go. Yeah, I saw Mike. I saw DJ Mike out there. We had a nice conversation. Very nice conversation. What we got, Bobby? About 2 minutes here?
About 3.5.
3.5 minutes to showtime. All right. What's happening in sports today? Your Celtics game 2 should have easily lost game 1. Easily. And freaking Indiana couldn't get the ball in bounds. Celtic luck. How about Kyrie Irving, man? Wow. Kyrie Irving.
Stop into any tavern to earn your entry for every
He kept his mouth shut and played basketball this year.
Yeah.
$5. Don't miss Vegas's best happy hour with 50% off drinks, 5 to 7 p.m. and 12 to 2 a.m. daily. With over 65 taverns, there is
All right, let's send out a pre-show tweet and retweet it at JT the Brick.
I'm Justin Watkins with Battleborn Injury Lawyers, and I have to laugh when I hear all the attorneys out there falling all over themselves to tell you who's bigger, who's better, or who's richer. It's funny because the American Bar Association found the most common complaints of lawyers is
my mom and dad are in town, so I've been taking some time off, which has been great.
How we treat our clients, and our clients seem to really appreciate it. Check out our Google reviews or call 766-1400 for a free consultation. At Battleborn, your battle is our fight.
Terribles is celebrating 65 years in Southern Nevada with 65K and 65 days. Make a qualifying purchase in-store or fuel up at the pump. Scan your Terribles app and spin for your chance to win free products. Or be lucky enough to land on $1,000 every day for 65 days.
And Kenny Bayless is at 1 o'clock, correct? Yeah.
Win more. Terribles, deliberately different since 1959.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential, but finding those people can be a major hassle, unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze, and right now you can try it for free.
All right, everybody, what else we got? Raider Nation, yes, thank you. Happy birthday to my dad and son. My dad turns 86 tomorrow, and my Son turns 23. They were born on the same day. How cool is that?
To a list of great matches to review, then actively invites them to apply for your job. And the
Yep.
results speak for themselves. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first
Raider Nation Radio.
first.
Thank God for YouTube and this mobile app.
And let ZipRecruiter do the work finding the best people.
Right, Bobby?
See for yourself. Experience the ease, efficiency, and power of ZipRecruiter
Yep.
for free. Just go to ziprecruiter.com/free.
Yep.
That's ziprecruiter.com/free.
All right, tweet is out. YouTube's up. Saw Santana last Sunday. You saw Andy Cisco. Andy was singing and performing. He's fantastic. All right.
You can even wait at the doctor's in a room specifically made for waiting. It's Land, baby. Come and sit patiently for a while, then wait even longer. It's Land. Life on a boat is way more relaxing, and it's even more relaxing when you protect your boat.
All right, we're off to the races.
Progressive Casualty Insurance.
Wake up with the morning tailgate with Clay Baker. Weekday mornings from 7 to 10 on Raider Nation Radio 920 AM, KROD Las Vegas.
You're listening to the JT the Brick Show, where the Raider Nation has come to sound off and react for over 20 years.
It's time for JT the Brick.
This is a new regime led by Antonio Pierce, a former player who's won a Super Bowl. Our vision is clear. Win a division. He's the right guy at the right time for this job. Right guy, right time to get the Raiders back, not to greatness, to the playoffs.
Our intention of how we play, the execution of our play, the mindset of our team, that's what I'm looking for.
I would love to see Antonio Pierce have the opportunity to coach this Raider team. I think he deserves it.
JT the Brick.
This coach wants to be more physical. He wants to put his hands on players.
Got the Jordan rules. I'm calling it now from now on, as long as I'm here, the Patrick Mahomes rules.
I like when the head coach says this. I'm a season ticket holder.
Squeeze him by the throat.
Antonio Pierce wants to get the black hole back to where it was in the Coliseum in Oakland. Let's help him.
And now, here's JT.
Out of the gate, JT with you. Good to be here today, live on YouTube at JT the Brick YT. Please subscribe. Catch the show before the show begins, man. Every time I do a show, man, throughout my career, I never had a chance to talk to people beforehand, except for Bobby and other producers. And we don't like talking before shows. We just like going hardcore and get you on the radio. I got a lot to say. Yes, people think it's cool. I'm wearing an AC/DC shirt today. I like to rock and roll. Thanks to Vinny Bonsignor, who was in for me yesterday. My mom and dad are in town from Naples, Florida /New York. My dad's birthday's tomorrow. We'll be here and do a show tomorrow. My son's birthday tomorrow. So we have a great family week out here. Yesterday, I played in the Raiders golf tournament. I got a lot to say about that because I got good information for you that you're not going to hear from anybody else. The NBA playoffs, coaching sound from Raiders OTAs, and that's about it. We are counting down to our summer programming, which is a mix and match of going to Costa Mesa to watch some of the practices, and we're going to break down the top 10 games in Raiders history. Top 10. It's our choice. I've been putting it together behind the scenes with some pretty cool people who know a lot more about that than me. And we're going to put together the top 10, probably have a few honorable mentions. It won't be your top 10. You might have a difference with it. But as I begin the show on Raider Nation Radio, 920 a.m., you know I'm fired up for this summertime programming. What will be the top 10 games ever played? Sea of Hands, Holy Roller, Heidi game, Super Bowl 11, 15, 18. Wow, a lot of games. AFC Championship game against the Titans to go to the Super Bowl. A lot of games to choose from, man. Al Davis's first game as a coach. The AFL Championship, 11 Angry Men. This is not a light task. We are capable of doing it. And we're going to start taking some nominations next week. So next week, we're going to start taking nominations for the greatest 10 games in the history of the Raiders. And we'll count it down. We'll count it down. A lot of people think the top 3 are going to be the Super Bowl. No, that's not it. It doesn't have to be. We can have another game mixed in. Will I include the Tuck rule? I didn't say the top 10 Raider victories of all time. The top 10 Raider games. Immaculate Reception, Sea of Hands, Tuck rule. How do I fit them all in? right? And maybe there's a game or two milestone game that you remember that you think is cool, going into Denver and winning. Some of the games that jump out to me might be different for you. So we're going to talk about that and get everybody going. I'm excited to be here. And again, thanks for Vinny for yesterday. So I'll get into it more next hour. The legendary Hall of Fame referee, Kenny Bayless, will join us at the top of the hour. He's getting inducted in a couple of weeks to the Southern Nevada Sports Hall of Fame, and we're going to have him on. So we have all the inductees in, and we're going to do that, and we're going to continue. So he's up today, and he did a lot of Tyson fights, a lot of Pacquiao fights, really good referee. I've probably seen 30 or 40 of the fights that he was the ref for. So I'm looking forward to that conversation. Levi Edwards will join us from Inside the Raiders. He wrote a great column on the OTAs and what's happening. And then we'll dive into your opinion, because I'm not really in the mood, nor do I think I want to go early on this quarterback competition. Look, any radio host can go on the radio every day and go, who do you want to see be quarterback? Give out the phone number and just sit back and not have to do a show. We don't do that type of radio. We want to do what's hot today, which is the NHL playoffs, the NBA playoffs. We're going to talk about some other sports here. Scotty Scheffler, who got arrested going into the PGA. Now everything's changing on that story. So there's a lot of headlines that I want to get to here, and we'll get to that after the monologue. You should know what you want to talk about by now. You have 2 hours to come at me directly via a cell phone or in the chat on YouTube. You can listen. A lot of people can't call. They used to say, the consultants, Bobby, 99% of your listeners can't call. Well, I run a show where I believe everybody should be able to call in and voice their opinion, especially if you disagree with mine. So if you don't agree with what I'm saying, we don't have to be enemies. We can be respectful, but we can disagree. I like callers like that better. People that want to take what I'm talking about and extend the conversation. 702-365-9200. So this is cool. I want to tell you something that no one's going to tell you. No one's going to tell you. Yesterday, we went to the Raiders golf tournament. If you ever played in a golf tournament, scramble format, you start off on a different hole. So we started off on the 15th hole. And I was with Credit One Bank, who's a proud partner of the Raiders. So I met some people, some new friends that I never met before. We went out and golfed. So I got to the 15th hole, and I took out my driver, and I walked up these wooden steps, and I get there, and it's the 8 cigar hole. 8 Cigar Lounge had a hole there. And there's one person there. There's a couple of ladies cutting cigars up so you can have a cigar. And it's Antonio Pierce, the coach of the Raiders. I'm like, wow. I go, Coach. He's like, hey, JT, what's happening? I go, you on this hole all day? Sometimes, a celebrity or someone like that will stay and say hi to every group. He goes, no, I just picked this hole to start. And I'm going to bounce around on my golf cart and say hi to each other. How's OTAs? Great. So we started talking about a bunch of things. And then Max Crosby's podcast came up. And he goes, yeah, Max is great. That podcast is even making him a better leader, because he's talking more about a leader. And he had Aiden O'Connell on the podcast, this or that. So we're making some small talk. And then I looked at him and I go, I'm getting pretty fired up for this Costa Mesa deal. And he's like, yeah, it's going to be cooler, team bonding. So he told me to my face, it's all about team bonding, getting the team together. It's a little bit more, there's more rules and the ability to get out of Vegas where players go home to their wives and kids, to bond on the road. I agree with him on that. So that was a nice conversation. And then we had a cool conversation about the first game against the Chargers. We had a big conversation. Most of that I will not repeat. He's ready. He's ready right now. As I talk to him on the tee box about the first interview I'm going to be lucky enough to conduct with him on the Charger game coming up. And I felt like he was interviewing me, talking about how big that game is and what he expects from, a little hint, what he expects from Raider Nation in LA and how aggressively excited he is for that game. I would put my tee in. I hit a drive a little bit off to the left. I got some good wood on it, but I kind of hit it over towards the edge of the fairway, and I went by him again. I said, man, Coach, thanks for sharing that with me. So it looked like he was ready to tackle, block, and go on the tee box yesterday at Rio Seco. And he is ready for our first interview the week heading into the Charger game. I am so excited for that interview. I can't wait after I was feeding off his energy yesterday. He wants that game. He wants all of them. That's a big one for him. He's from there in Los Angeles. He expects Raider Nation to take over completely. and he's going to make sure that happens. That's what I'll let you know. He's going to make sure leading into week 1 that there is a Raider takeover in Southern California. Not during training camp. We're not going to infringe on the Chargers' marketing rights or the Rams' marketing rules. None of that. Had nothing to do with that. Talking week 1 on the road. Hair on my arm standing up after I hit my drive and went back to my golf cart. I told the group that we were with, 4 of us total, 1 woman, and I said, that was pretty cool. You got a chance to see the coach on the first hole. He's different. I was telling my dad about it today at Bagel Mania. We went to Bagel Mania. My folks like a big, they're old, in a good way. They're 85. They're not going to sit there and eat you out of house and home, but I took them out there for a traditional New York deli breakfast this morning. And we were talking about the Raiders and life and all that. And my dad likes to coach because my dad, born and raised a diehard Giant fan, and really liked Antonio Pierce, the way he played for the Giants, winning the Super Bowl he did. So my dad says, man, I hope you guys have a good year because I like this coach. And my dad didn't say that about a lot of other coaches because he just didn't know him. The only one he knew and met was John Gruden. He didn't know a lot of the other coaches. So he feels like he knows Antonio Pierce from watching him play as a player. And he thinks that that's the type of guy that can turn it around and get the Raiders to where the Raiders want to go. So then the other thing that was pretty cool yesterday. So Thayer Mumford was there. I don't know Thayer well, but I interviewed him. I did his first interview at the Raider draft luncheon when he got drafted last year and he came out. So we were cordial and, say hi to each other. And I was in the locker room with him after the round and we talked for a good 20 minutes about him, his life, going up against Max Crosby every day, how intense it's been, what he thinks about a lot of other topics from media to his teammates to everything, all of it in a locker room that will stay off the record. But I really wanted to share that with you yesterday because I don't get a chance to do that much, in a social setting. I'm emceeing the event. We're giving away prizes at the end. And I had a chance to talk to the coach and especially Thayer Mumford for quite some time. And I have a newfound respect for Thayer Mumford. I'm not saying that he's the greatest right tackle. I'm not saying that he can't lose that job. I had nothing to do with that. I just got to know him better in 20 minutes. And I walked away and said, wow, that was pretty cool, what we shared and what we talked about. And the guy loves what's going on in his personal life, his career, and the Raiders. Like when you meet a guy like this who I know, but I don't know him well, and then I get to know him a little bit better, I walk away and I can get on my radio show and my platforms and tell you, wow, really cool guy. I didn't know how much he loved the Raiders, how much he loves being the right tackle, how much he loves going up against Max Crosby every day, which is clearly going to make him better. So that was cool. Little show prep yesterday out at the golf course with the Raiders business partners, and that was a fun day yesterday as we get rolling. In regards to OTAs, the big topic of the coaches, and we got a lot of sound coming up over the last couple of days on what they had to say. Before we play the sound, let me give you a couple of big picture items that I think are really important right now as we're sitting here on May 23rd. May 23rd. I'm really going to get ready to go at training camp. And training camp is going to take a while after OTAs. But we're going to start popping with this stuff mid-June. And the thing that I'm looking forward to the most is listening to the coaches and the players, how they flip this offense. This is another new offense. Now, a lot of these guys haven't been here 8-9 years. When Fred Biletnikoff played on the offense and Villapiano played on defense, they played and practiced against each other for 8 to 10 years. Same guys every day. And they were all Hall of Famers or Pro Bowlers, so they all got better because they were practicing against the elite players. Imagine practicing against Art Shell and going up against Gene Upshaw every day. You think you'd get better? That's what happened. The Raiders have a chance to do that now. They have really good offensive line players, really good. And Thayer Mumford kind of changed my opinion of him yesterday. But that's more on a guy-to-guy thing, not fundamentals and how good of a player he's going to be. But the offensive line is going to get severely tested by Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby and Malcolm Kuntz and Tyree Wilson. This ain't no joke. If you're coming into OTAs and we're going to eventually get the padded practices and you're on this offensive line, you better buckle up. Because these defenders are coming to kick your ass in practice. And the offensive line, after talking to Thayer Mumford, they've buckled up and they want to go against Max and Christian Wilkins. I love that. I believe, I have no inside information, none. I believe that the Raiders are going to amp up their work in practice and the physicality in practice in order to meet the test of the Chargers in Baltimore in week 1 and 2. I repeat, no inside information. I'm telling you, these guys are going to be ramped up and practice harder, more physical, more real-time practice against each other, and get ready for the preseason where they're going to play a little bit more than they think they're going to play. Okay, everybody got that? These guys know what's at stake week 1 and 2 at the Los Angeles Chargers, home of Raider Nation, and then the long trip to Baltimore, a game that no one's given the Raiders a chance. Barely saying, don't even take the trip, don't even get off the plane. I promise you, they're going to be ready to go because they're going harder this year than they have in the past. I don't like the way this team has been practicing the last couple of years in the preseason. Not that it's been camp, not that it's been sleepaway camp, and we know this is like not Max Crosby I'm talking about, but there's been no urgency in the preseason. Don't get hurt, don't get hurt, don't get hurt. You're not going to play, you're not going to play. Don't worry, I'll play you one. We're going to play you one series and get your ass out of the game. That has not worked for this organization. That has not worked for this program for 20 years. That has got to change. I'm not saying dramatically. This isn't Jim Otto in an old helmet that's not up to standards with 6 weeks of preseason games, playing them all and having double practices, barely allowed to break for water. This is the modern NFL. But this organization and this coaching staff, I'm sensing, is going to pick up the pace. Going to pick up the pace compared to the former regime, which it was more about corrections. Here's the film. Correct this, correct this, correct this. You didn't do this. Your foot wasn't this way. You didn't line up this way. These guys are going to play more football. They're going to play more football. And when they play more football, they're going to get better because every unit is ready to test each other. You know, you understand what I'm saying? The units going up against each other, O-line, D-line, linebackers going up against tight ends. It's going to amp up. Michael Mayer and Brock Bowers are going to put these linebackers' heads on a swivel. Okay? If Getsy can get them in the right formation quickly break the huddle. There he is to the right, Michael Mayer. Outside of him is Brock Bowers. Bowers is in motion. Good luck being Diablo Spillane, Masterson, and looking at this. This is going to look like an aggressive front of guys who are going forward at an intense pace. I like that. I want to see a change around here. I want to see a change for training camp. Training camp's always hard. I mean, you're in the sun. You're trying to get in shape. You're going to practice. You're going to lift. You're going to do all that. But what's going to happen with the padded practices? What's going to be the expectations? You want to keep the players fresh. It hasn't worked here. How's it work keeping the players fresh? Anybody? How's it worked? Not very well. So let's jump on them in the first 2 games. Let's come out of camp and let's come out of the preseason. You're going to get 10 days off before the first game. Everybody will be rested up for that first game in LA. But this guy, Antonio Pierce, is going into LA like Russell Crowe in Gladiator going into Rome. Okay, this guy, Antonio Pierce, is going to be like the movie Gladiator, leading everyone into Los Angeles. And he ain't joking. So we can't joke around here. No jokes. No jokes. This is like go. So that's what I got out of yesterday. Playing golf, by the way. Playing golf yesterday. You can talk about how fired up I am. So that's what we're going to do. I want to thank PTs. They fuel the monologue. Best happy hour in town. 5 to 7, midnight to 2. They own the Strat, Arizona Charlie's, the Laughlin Entertainment Center, where they have great concerts out there, and the taverns are fantastic. PTs, 2 happy hours a day, 5 to 7, midnight to 2, as we get going. Bobby, the show started 18 minutes ago, right?
Sure did.
Is everyone on vacation today? I could have took another day off. I got more vacation than anybody I know. Anybody up here on the mirror, or am I just talking to myself on a YouTube screen? Let's wake the place up. When I'm not here, do whatever you want to do. Go swimming in the pool. Go get ice cream. Focus on my show for 2 hours a day. Focus on sports, not just the Raiders. Use me as a portal for sports and how to talk sports in your life 702-365-9200. I went a little long there, Bobby, so we'll get to the Graham and Getsky sound coming up here in a little bit. Basketball has been pretty incredible. The NBA has done what I expected it to do. The NBA stinks in the regular season, stinks. And then when the playoffs come around, it's much-watched TV. My Knicks got eliminated. My dad was supposed to be here now for 2 weeks to watch the Knicks with me and his grandson. I got to watch the Pacers. Pacers are playing Bobby's Red Sox in playing Bobby Celtics in game one. Game's over. Game's over. All they got to do is inbound the basketball. The game's over. And they can't inbound the basketball. They throw it off a player out of bounds. Boston hits a three and wins the game in overtime. Boston was beat dead in game one. Listen to me. These are pros. And look, Boston's playing defense too. All they had to do was throw the ball to the back court. We all play basketball, youth basketball. You're taking it out. Throw the ball as far away from the opposing basket as you can. It was 10 seconds left, up three. All the ball had to do was land on the other side of the court. Someone grabs it. They would have took 2 dribbles, got fouled. There would have been 8 seconds, 7. Make 1 of 2 free throws. Game's over. Boston's out. They're down 4. And Indiana inbounds the basketball under Boston's rim potentially, kicks it out of bounds, and Boston wins the game. Then Kyrie Irving. Bobby and I were talking about that before the start of the show. You know, I'm not the shut up and dribble guy. But if you say something stupid, and again, we all have evolved on vaccines and the ability to be available or not, or take time off or all this. Man, I rip Kyrie Irving all the time on his not being available for his team. Kyrie Irving is playing as good as anybody can play in the playoffs. And Dallas now, after beating Minnesota in game 1's got a puncher's chance, man. They win that game, they got a puncher's chance to do something. And then finally, the cop was disciplined for the body cam being off in the Scotty Scheffler case. The Louisville Metro Police Department has taken corrective action against the police officer who arrested Scotty Scheffler last week because he didn't activate his body cam. During a news conference, the detective, Brian Gillis, the chief said that Detective Brian Gillis violated the department's standard operating procedures by not having his camera on. He did not have his body-worn camera operating ready as required. He was performing a law enforcement action as defined in our policy, but clearly made a mistake. So we're going to see how this affects everything going forward here. But that was a really big storyline. And that's about it. So that's the monologue. We got a lot of sound to play from the coaches. What's the topic of the day? I just ranted for 20 minutes about what? What's the topic that I have to obviously give you to engage you today? The topic is this, and I think it's a damn good one. How hard should the Raiders go in training camp and preseason games? It's a good topic. It defines every Raider fan. If you claim to be a Raider fan and you wear Raiders, your name's Raider Mike, Raider Bob, Raider Pete, there's a really good question someone hasn't asked you in a bar lately. How hard do you want these guys going? You might say, JT, put them in bubble wrap. And you could be right. Put Devontae in bubble wrap. We don't need to see him play it down. Put Michael Mayer in bubble wrap. We can't afford to get him hurt. Or you could say, let's go. Let's ride. I'd like to know from the fans of this organization what they want to see from an intensity level. Coaches get paid to coach. They dot every I, they cross every T. They know exactly what they're doing. There's trainers, there's doctors. They're checking heart rate, blood count, everything. They know they're trying to dial in these athletes to make them efficient when the season started. It hasn't worked for the Raider organization in quite some time. The trainers are great. The doctors are great. The coaches are all pretty good. They're all professionals, but it hasn't hit where this team is ready to explode out of the gate. Do you think there needs to be a major change with the philosophy of this led by Antonio Pierce? Or am I making too much out of nothing? It's the preseason. It's practice. Who cares? Let's just make sure everybody's happy as we get ready to play football in 7 to 8 weeks. Thor in Summerlin. Start off the show. What's going on, Thor?
See what's happening, brother. I'm a firm believer in practice how you play. Honestly, I say you go full. If you out there, go full on out, man. If you're scared of injury, you're bound to get injured. And obviously, we don't want people hurt. and there has to be a little bit, maybe a player like a Devontae or Max Crosby, someone you know that is doing all the work and is all the way ready. Maybe you just have them be in the pool exercising and doing all that. But the people you're evaluating, especially, I want to see you going as hard as you're going to go when you're out there on game day. I really do. That I'm old school like that.
Yep.
Like Jim Otto. I mean, we had Jim Otto talk the other day. Jim Otto went like that every single time, right? Whether it was practice, preseason, All-Star, or Pro Bowl, or whatever. That's how I want them going on. That's how I want them coached up.
Yep. Thanks, Thor. I agree with you. There's two ways of looking at it. And again, I think I know both sides pretty well. Been around this for a while. And I think that you have to make sure that your team is healthy heading into that first game. You can't have 3 starters out. You can't. Every year, a team loses a wide receiver to a torn Achilles or someone tears a hamstring or something like that. That's a fluke. They're all in great shape. They're all in pretty good shape. That's a fluke. But the amount of intensity you have with the cardio, with the running, it's like a boxer. I always said I go to a lot of the fights. You can tell instantly if a boxer's ready for a fight by the end of the second round. If they can barely lift their head up in the stool in the corner and they're gassed because as much as boxers train aggressively. I mean, they run mountains, they fight 3-minute rounds in practice, they spar, they do everything. Once the lights go on and it's a real championship fight, the adrenaline makes them go harder and they lose energy quicker. I believe the boxing analogy is very fair with football. Football players run, they do wind sprints every day, they're lifting, they're doing their cardio. But when the game really starts, week 1 at the Chargers, and you got a real opponent coming across from you who's just as good as you, man, you get gassed, you get tired. It's just too much at times. I think the Raiders will be ready because I think Antonio Pierce, I'm just suggesting this, is going to be so gung-ho to go into LA and win that game. They're going to make sure that they're overly prepared when it comes to physicality. And the only way you can do that is you got to play in the preseason. We got new special teams rules. Raider Luke in the chat says special teams are going to be important this year with the new kickoff rules. I agree. I don't know what they're doing yet. We're going to interview the special teams coach, hopefully during camp. How aggressive are they going to be on kickoffs? What type of blocking schemes are they going to have? How athletic are their special teams going to be now, where they're going to have to tackle more? Are you going to use offensive linemen on special teams to start the wedge instead of special teams players? How about your 2 backup offensive line on kickoffs because you're running left and those 2 guys are blowing a hole open instead of some fullback and some wide receiver who can't start, but he's on special teams? I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to all of this. All right, when we come back, we're going to get to all the coaching sound that I didn't get a chance to play. Being off here the last couple of days, we were off with the Aviators. They got rained out. How about that? And we're off yesterday for the Raiders golf tournament, which was a lot of fun. The monologue brought to you by our great friends at Resorts World. Country pop singer Brett Young. I'll be talking about him a lot. He'll take the stage at Resorts World on Friday, August 2nd for a one-night only performance. We got great deals surrounding that I'll tell you about over the next week or two. Wow, I got to get a drink, man. Doing a monologue for 27 minutes without any water, man. Woo! Be right back.
I remember this guy Isaac from a couple days ago. Isn't that jackass kid we had? Hi, how are you?
The Morning Tailgate, weekdays at 7 a.m. on Raider Nation Radio, 920 a.m.
Injured in a crash? Call Sam and Ash at 702-820-1234. That's 702-820-1234. Sam and Ash, because you deserve what's right.
Finley Volvo invites you to discover the first pure electric SUV from Volvo, the XC40 Recharge. Volvo's first battery electric SUV is fully connected, featuring the first infotainment system designed and built by Google and powered by Android.
Hey Google, turn up the heat.
With Google Assistant, Google Maps, and Google Play Store built in, along with legendary Volvo safety, it's the SUV you've been waiting for. Learn more about the XC40 Recharge at FinleyVolvo.com.
Howdy, Davidson here from BetMoneyHoney.com. Would you like to become an educated sports fan that also knows how to place a bet? How about a library of how games are played, how to make bets, and hot picks of the day? Join me at BetMoneyHoney.com.
GiveMeTheVin.com is America's best car bar. Paying top dollar. Your car, truck, sports car, exotic. What are you waiting for? We want to buy your car right now. Find out why thousands of satisfied customers across the United States put more money in their pocket by going to GiveMeTheVin.com. I told my buyers, let's get them bought. Right now is the time to go.
Sell us your car. GiveMeTheVin.com.
Hey.
So easy you can do it in your underwear.
Hey, have you heard the amazing news from Boost Mobile? When you switch to Boost, you get 4 lines for $100.
Tonight
Plus
would
4
have been
free
game one of the
5G
Western
devices
Conference
like the
Finals.
Samsung Galaxy A15
For us.
or the Moto G Stylus 5G. That's 4 lines for $100. Need another reason to switch?
I think this topic's pretty good about how hard to go in the preseason because, you know, there is injury, and injuries will come about if you go hard in the preseason. If you go hard, you'll get injuries. Augie says, shout out from the Bay Area. JT, we're going into SoFi week 1. Make a statement. I would hope so. Yeah, got to win that game.
Dude, you should check out Truck U CDL training. My brother got his CDL license in 4 weeks.
I don't know if Abdul is going to win out. This new running back looks pretty legit. Be good to see how that works out. Abdullah's got a lot of experience. Trey Tucker on special teams, I would agree. 100% because they brought in some veteran wide receivers. I would agree.
We're searching for exercise plans. Actually, you don't have to look far. Just look to the first 2 letters of the word wellness.
Corey's saying, do you think the NFL should have preseason games in non-NFL cities? No. I think preseason game, well, you know, if you put a preseason game in Oakland or St. Louis, I think fans will like that, but not if the product is shitty and they're not playing the players. You gotta play the players.
Was developed in the relentless pursuit of perfection with a deep passion for agave. It's the most awarded tequila. You'll immediately notice its beautiful packaging, and after just one sip, you'll experience how smooth it is. It's
Tequila.
the tequila, the single highest quality. 100% all natural handcrafted Comisario tequilas, Blanco, Reposado, and Añejo. Tequila Comisario, a proud partner of the J to the Break Show.
When you are injured, knowing that someone has your back changes everything. Our family has spent over 3 decades fighting and pursuing justice for the injured. It's a long family heritage that we proudly carry on. From our father to our family to the expert legal team at DeCastroverde, we founded this firm for you. We're the DeCastroverde brothers, and we have your back.
BrothersWin.com.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show, brought to you by PT's.
Thayer Mumford.
Best happy hour in town, 5 to 7 p.m. and midnight to 2 a.m.
9-day difference from my first year and my second year to now. Like, now I'm like, all right, I know I can play. I know I can go against one of the best, especially with Max and anybody else that want to play this year. And I know what I can do. So all I got to do now is actually meet my potential and actually do it and help everybody else out on the team as well.
Thayer Mumford, who I got a chance to see at the golf tournament yesterday, and really nice conversation about his focus and his passion for his position and what he's doing and how much he loves being a Raider. JT, back with you as we continue on. I wanted to mention again Resorts World because we do a lot with them. And Brett Young, who's a country pop singer, really big, he'll be at Resorts World on Friday, August 2nd. That's a one-night-only performance. And Brett Young will be joined by several guests. Fellow chart-topping country pop singer Mackenzie Porter also. And Brett Young has had 7 #1 hits. He's been named New Male Artist of the Year and Country Songwriter Artist of the Year. Tickets are on sale now to see Brett Young live in concert with Mackenzie Porter. All you got to do is go to rwlasvegas.com for Resorts World, rwlasvegas.com. They're a proud partner of our show, and they put on incredible concerts. And then after the concert, you go into Doghouse Saloon. That's our home for Monday Night Football, and they have live music and entertainment there. And that's fun. So it's kind of like an overflow crowd after the concert goes into the venue right next to it, the open air bar, and then everyone has a blast there. So go check it out if you get a chance as we get going. Some sound from Patrick Graham that I wanted to get to on tinkering with the defense. That was pretty good last year. It really came up strong down the stretch. And how does it make it better this offseason?
I enjoy being in the lab and with the players we have who have high football IQ, that embrace those challenges of the tinkering, I guess. It's definitely fun for me. And it goes back to each year is different. And if you try to stay the same, people will catch up and, then we'll get passed by. So there's definitely a little tinkering going on. We'll see, what sticks, and we'll put, the best version of our defense out there, at the beginning of the season, and hopefully it keeps improving.
Yeah, it has to improve in the depth of the young players if they're going to start or not, or are they going to start as backups and fight? And one thing about Patrick Graham that he told us last year, they practice hard. And Antonio Pierce was rewarding players with more time. Malcolm Kuntz, for example, once Antonio Pierce took over from the former regime, he wanted to see more Malcolm Kuntz, and they were able to do it. And look at how he exploded on the scenes. More from Patrick Graham on what Christian Wilkins will do now, getting that double team, what it could do for Max.
Well, Christian, the good thing about that, he's been successful in this league in the past. I was fortunate to be there in Miami his rookie year, and just to see the player he's developed into. It's pretty, awesome to see. And obviously that's another tool for us to use on defense that's going to be positive for us in terms of, I think he's someone that requires, multiple hands on him, or let me say more than two sets of hands on him. So that's a positive right there. You got him, you got Max, and then the other guys, John Jenkins, he's tough to block one-on-one. It's something that we preach with our defense. We can't get blocked one-on-one, and the more guys that you have that can, get that done and have production off of that, the better off we'll be in terms of our pass defense, run defense altogether.
Yeah, that he's going to be the X factor. It's hard to evaluate the Raiders. All the media that's lazy saying, well, they don't have a quarterback. No, the Raiders have two quarterbacks. We're pretty good. They're not elite. It's not Patrick Mahomes. They're not. They're not Joe Burrow. They're not Justin Herbert. But they have the ability to beat all those guys. They're good quarterbacks. So the lazy media is not paying attention to the topic of what happens if Christian Wilkins has an all-pro year and Max does also. So both of them are Pro Bowlers and all-pros. That could happen. And if that does happen, they're going to wreak havoc. And that's going to change the football field. That's going to give them shorter fields, turnovers, and all that. That's something that has to happen this year. One more for the defensive coordinator, Patrick Graham. He's going to have these two tight end sets that the Raiders are going to be practicing today all throughout camp, and how will it affect his defense?
One, they can have 2-3-man surfaces. It's a benefit for us when you have an open surface. So when I mean open surface, a 2-man surface, that's a benefit. How are they going to deal with that? Especially when you have a player like Max or a player like Malcolm who's on the edge. Like, how are they going to account for him? Are they going to leave him singled, or are they going to bring somebody over? Once you go to 12 personnel, you got a chance to close both edges, which makes it tougher on the pass rush. Then the check with me run game that comes into play there. And then if you have the unique situation of having pass catching tight ends, one time the formation could look like traditional 12. Next time it could look like traditional 11 personnel. It could look like 21 personnel. So it forces us to go through a bunch of communication, and it's good to get that work.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of work going on. They're going to see a lot of different looks in the preseason. They're going to see, I think they're going to have a lot of aggressive practices, first team versus first team, where they're going to try to trick each other into seeing what these fronts look like. And then Luke Getsy is going to be able to have all these different exotic sets. I want to see more players in motion. I want to see more players running crossing routes. If you're going to run the 12-man personnel and you're going to run double tight end set and most likely run it a lot, which is fine. That's the strength of the team possibly. On the passing plays, let's start to get out of this coma of running slow offensive plays that are one-dimensional, that don't have exotic looks. Got to get back to that. I hope Luke Getsy's able to pull that off. Let's get out to Sawed Off in San Diego on the mobile app. What's happening?
Hey, JT. Yeah, man. Over the years, I had the opportunity to be the director of entertainment for Raiders Fan Convention for quite a while. So I got to meet a lot of the legends, a lot of the guys that I grew up watching on TV. And I got to tell you, one time I was out in Phoenix with Cliff Branch, and Cliff Branch, we're sitting down, and this is what he was telling me. I asked him, I said, "Hey, Cliff, what was it besides your speed that made you so prolific on Sundays?" And this is what Cliff said to me. He said, "You know what, sort of, when you practice from Wednesday or Tuesday all the way to, Saturday or what have you, and you're going to get up against guys like, Skip Thomas and Willie Brown and George Atkinson and Jack Tatum and Michael Haynes and Lester Hayes, like Sunday is easy." And I was like, wow. I mean, that was the huge impact on what I thought about Raider football and how Raider football is played. And I heard that straight from the legend himself.
Cliff.
So I've got to tell you, we have to play, like what Thor said, practice the way you play. And big shout out to Thor, my homeboy out there. And we're going to be having a Raider Fan Convention in Phoenix. Hope to see everybody out there, man.
Right.
Shout out to the diehards. And
let us know about it. Let us know about it. Thank you. We'll promote it for you. Appreciate the call. Thank you, man. Soto, appreciate that. Whenever Raider fans get together, let me know. And if we can help you get more people out there or help with what you're doing or direct people to a website, we'd love to do that. 702-365-9200. What he said about Cliff is something that Phil Villapiano's told me a lot in our years of friendship. He said the same thing when I went up against Art Shell and Gene Upshaw and went up against Otto. When he went up against those players and played at that level, it made him a better player because practice was so intense. The games were easier. Practices were harder than the games. They had better players they were going up against than their opponents. They were playing on Sunday. You rarely hear teams say that. In basketball, when you play basketball, you got 12 guys. Say you got Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen, unless you separate them, which you don't want to do. You can't let Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen and Rodman and them go up against the subs. That won't be a great practice for Michael Jordan, Pippen, and Rodman. But in football, you can go up against the starters, man. You can have the offense go up against the defense. You can do that. In hockey, you can do it. You can put your first line out there against your first defense in practice and let them get after it. And I think that's what the Raiders are going to start to do. The Raiders don't want to go into the regular season a little bit off. They'd rather be peaking at the right time, go peaking into that one. But, the week before that game against the Chargers, coming out of when they break the preseason and preseason's over, then you rest your body, you practice, and you have full focus on the opponent, which will be the LA Chargers. And I think the Raiders are going to have an advantage there. I really do. People really do think that Jim Harbaugh is going to have an advantage over what? Marvin Lewis, Joe Philbin, Antonio Pierce, Rob Ryan. I saw Rob Ryan yesterday. You know how long Rob Ryan's been coaching? A long time. Jim Harbaugh is not going to have an advantage in the classroom over Rob Ryan. If they make plays and they have better players and they win the game, okay, tip your cap. But the coaching staff of the Raiders is better than you think. It's better than you think. There's a lot of consultants and veterans around this building here that are making sure these players are getting the best coaching available. Isaac is in Fresno. Isaac, what's going on?
Fired up for the season, but the two previous regimes with both Gruden and McDaniels didn't play a lot of starters in the preseason. I think it's time to change it up. We've had a tendency to start out slow. We don't play our guys, and then I see Tom Brady in preseason games. It's like, okay, I'm not saying play him a half or anything. I think those days might be done, but play him a quarter. Maybe the scrimmage games, I don't know if we can scrimmage. We're not going to scrimmage at the Bolts or anybody like that, but maybe the Cowboys while we're down in SoCal.
Yeah.
But I hear great boxers talk about sparring, how that prepares them for a fight, not hitting a bag, not jumping rope. It's the actual sparring. So I think guys getting their hands on each other, in order to form steel, you need heat and pressure. And I think AP is going to bring the heat. I heard Amy Trask talk about our team earlier today. I seen her on a YouTube video, and she said this team under AP has some oomph in it. And I think he's going to bring it. This is a new offense. We're gonna have to get some work. You know, we got Getsky in there and running a 12 personnel or whatever. Real quick shout out to Jim Otto. I didn't get a chance to call in, but Double Zero.
Yes.
He's the man. Made me think about Daryl LaMonica here from Fresno. I know he was snapping the ball to him back in the day, but I think the media is sleeping on AOC, man, but we need to get some work in. 24 points like AP wants, and I think we'll be ready to go, man.
Thank you. Appreciate the call. And thanks for mentioning Jim Otto. That was my last show on Monday. As we went back and looked back at the life of Jim Otto, and that's at Raiders.com if you missed any of that. Spent a lot of time. I went on my Sirius XM show and did a lot of Jim Otto also. The funeral coming up for the Raider families that are going up there, the families, the teammates, it's going to be heavy. Pops is gone. Jim Otto, legend, absolute legend, the original Raider, toughest football player arguably of all time, definitely on the Mount Rushmore of the toughest football players, and accomplished, 10 years in a row, first team All-Pro. The only other guy to do that was Jerry Rice over a 10-year span. So at his position, center, you could say he was the best ever in the conversation, but I thought he was a better man, a better human being. Wow, what a big loss for Pops, as a lot of the alumni found out about it. Personally, our alumni department does a great job. Raiders have a unique alumni department. They have a staff that deals with the alumni and helps out the widows and the individuals who pass and help along the way and get messages back and forth and arrange travel and do all that. It's not an easy job, especially when you're having great relationships and then one day someone passes away and you got to put on your business hat and help them and their families through the most trying times. I'm very proud to be associated with the Raiders and their alumni department. They do a big job because it's expected. It's expected to do a big job around here. When we come back, more from the coaches. We'll hear from Luke Getsky and what he has to say about some of the tinkering that they have to do. How do they have to become ready to play fast? The scheme, how complex is it going to be? We are brought to you by Remy Martin. We always say team up for excellence. Get a Remy Martin sidecar. Go to any of the pool parties. Ask for the Remy VSOP. Remy Martin in Las Vegas, the sports and entertainment capital of the world. Team up for excellence. Woo. All right, we got about another 10 minutes here.
Yeah, a little less than that. A little less than that. More like about 5
yards, 36 touchdowns, and just 9 interceptions. Want to upgrade at a position?
Oh, I'm tired.
Spend the money on those kind of results. Upgrade at the position. You got that right. Yeah, the position.
The Morning Tailgate, weekdays at 7 a.m. on Raider Nation Radio, 920 a.m.
You know, a lot of lawyers who advertise here don't even live here. If they say Nevada, they're not from around here. If they think our capital is Las Vegas, they're not from around here. I'm Richard Harris, and I am from Nevada. I grew up here. I went to school here. I raised my family here. No one knows Nevada like we do. If you've been
Whoa.
Richard Harris, the Richard Harris Law Firm, 444-44.
Do we give Kuntz an exception this summer? I think you could afford to pay him now and lock him up if he's a good player, but I think a lot of people are going to want to see one more year out of this. We saw a little bit of him and very impressive down the stretch. I think we'd like to see him back that up to prove he can do it multiple years, don't you?
5 to 7 p.m. and 12 to 2 a.m. daily. With over 65 taverns, there is always a location near you. To find yours, visit ptstaverns.com. That's ptstaverns.com today.
Hey everyone, it's Joey from Sky Diamonds in Town Square. Summer is upon us and it's already sizzling out there. The deals are also sizzling at Sky Diamonds. Let's rock your summer. Make sure you're blingy for that pool or beach or backyard barbecue. Whether it's a nice gold chain or a new diamond ring, make it easy on yourself this summer. Use our 5 years, no interest, no money down financing. We have the largest and most beautiful store in Las Vegas, not to mention 10 times the inventory of everyone else. Come experience our passion. Sky Diamonds, located in Town Square.
All right. Thank you.
This is going to be Aiden O'Connell talking about Gardner Minshew coming
Yep.
back.
Then we got that Getsy sound.
Yep, all full loaded, ready to go.
Oh, I'm yawning. It's not good.
XC40 Recharge at FinleyVolvo.com.
If you have debt and are planning on using your tax refund to pay it off, Panda Law Firm can help triple the amount applied toward the debt. Hi, we're the attorneys from Panda Law. Before you pay down debt with your tax refund, call Panda for a free debt analysis and learn how much you can save through our program. With Panda, people getting $3,500 back.
You think I'm going to give you my pick for quarterback one right now, Watts Raider? Why would I do that? I got to interview these guys. I got to call their preseason games on the radio. I definitely will answer that question after the final preseason game, if not earlier, but I'm not answering it in May. Nothing good for that. Nothing good with that. Bobby, I think I've kind of cooled off with my concerts. I saw Billy Joel with Sting. I saw Matthias Jobs and the Scorpions. I saw the Rolling Stones and then Pearl Jam. A lot of concerts, a lot of money.
Oh, speaking of which, you hear the feds are going after Ticketmaster and Live Nation.
Why's that?
Huh?
Why?
Because of antitrust.
No appointment necessary.
They
24-hour
they've got a
service.
monopoly. So they're
ZipZap
gonna try to
Auto
break
at
them up.
Cheyenne and North Durango Drive, and online at zipzapauto.com. The El Diablo Burger is back at Carl's Jr. Crispy bacon, cheese,
Yep.
fiery habanero sauce, and jalapeno poppers. It's our spiciest burger ever. So
Give them to your
Bodies at Al Davis. When I finished playing professional football, one of my first assignments the next year, as training camp started, was to go to Raider camp and cover it. I fly out to LA, I get out
El
there,
Diablo is back
and
for all
it's
eternity.
cool.
Only at Carl's Jr.
Yep.
Good burger.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show, brought to you by Comisario Tequila, the official tequila of the JT the Brick Show.
It's been great. Obviously, I've heard stories about Gardner for a long time and been a big fan of his actually for a long time because of his story and how he got to where he was. And so obviously a guy that, again, just loves football, loves being around the guys. And so it's been fun to, get to grow that relationship. I think being in the quarterback room, it's super important to have good guys around you. And I was super lucky with Jimmy and Brian last year to have two guys that supported me and helped me and also were fun guys to be around. And I definitely feel that with Gardner.
That's Aiden O'Connell at OTAs complimenting Gardner Minshew. I think these guys are going to get along well. They are. And Jimmy Garoppolo played a big role, and so did Josh McDaniels. I thought Josh McDaniels did a good job, a very good job of getting Aiden O'Connell ready to play. He didn't do a good job as a head coach. Overall, he's no longer the head coach. But I thought he did a good job getting Aiden O'Connell, drafting him. That's a Josh McDaniels move. Brought him in, saw something with him, Dave Ziegler and Josh, to go get him. And then they coached him up in a quarterback room with Jimmy Garoppolo. And when Aiden had to play, he was prepared. Some of it was a little bit weird. No completions after the first quarter in Kansas City, but a win. The all-time scoring record, 63 points against the Chargers. Some of those scores came on defense. But when Aiden had to go under the fire, he was ready to play. And that's because the coaches had him ready. And they're going to have Gardner Minshew ready to go if he's the backup and has to win that starting job or whatever will happen in the preseason. The coaches will get the quarterbacks ready. Now, Brian Hoyer, to me, was a big mistake. Another good guy. Another guy we interviewed on a first day of media day. Good dude. Good dude, Brian Hoyer. Shouldn't have played. Shouldn't have played in Chicago when Jimmy Garoppolo didn't go. I was wrong with that. That whole week leading up on this flagship station, I said, if it's a make-or-break game in Chicago, I think we better go with the guy with the experience, Brian Hoyer. I was wrong. Hoyer was terrible. Aiden O'Connell should have played that game. Maybe the Raiders win. But if the Raiders win that game, then Josh McDaniels doesn't get fired. He doesn't. He doesn't get fired if they win that game in Chicago. I can promise you. So a lot of things went down. Very complicated year last year with the coaching change and the quarterbacks in general. Raider Mike is in Portland, Oregon. He's up next on the mobile app. Go ahead.
Hey, what's up, JT?
Hi, Mike.
Sorry about your Knicks. Some of my favorite teams ever were late 80s, mid 90s Knicks. Just badass teams. Anyway, I think you'll be right there right next year, and you're going to get a killer free agent. As far as Jim Otto, all-time great.
Mm-hmm.
I had one of his started so hurricaning it took it into the ocean. So
Mike, your phone's breaking up. You in a good spot? You keep cutting in and out. You okay?
You hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Iron Chad Carpenter.
All right, Mike, we got to run. You got a bad phone line. We'll get you tomorrow. You got a bad phone line. It makes for bad radio. I don't do bad radio. Get the phones right. Get in a good spot. Get a landline. As I take all my interviews at home on landlines. If you don't want to do that, I appreciate your calling. Call back tomorrow and we'll get you going. La Casa Cigars and Lounge at Tivoli Village with the walk-in humidor with over 500 cigar labels to choose from. Wow, Mike does an unbelievable job with live music. The lounge features the largest whiskey, scotch, and bourbon selections in the Valley. And the music's fantastic 7 nights a week. Get a private membership. Go in the back room. Get your own locker. Your cigars will be treated beautifully. You'll have such a selection and service like you wouldn't believe. La Casa Cigars and Lounge at Tivoli Village and online at lacasacigars.com. Man, I'm trying to figure out Instagram, Bobby. I'm a Twitter guy. Instagram, I get it, but I'm more on Twitter, X, which is also a sewer. But La Casa Cigars got a nice Instagram page. When I want to know who's playing the music, I just go there and find La Casa Cigars and find out who's playing and go down and watch some live music. As we're 1 hour down, one more to go. Coming up next, Southern Nevada Sports Hall of Fame. This week's guest is Kenny Bayless, the former referee who's had a very interesting career. If you're a boxing fan, you know the name Kenny Bayless. Some of the greatest fights of his career, his legacy inside and outside the ring, and what he thinks of the sport of boxing now, because there's a lot going on. There is a lot going on in the sport of boxing now. The calendar is full. Also, Saudi Arabia is trying to take over boxing, which I'm not thrilled about at all, but something to bring up here, a topic I'll talk to him about. So boxing, very important to us. We'll talk to Kenny Bayless coming up here in a little bit. Levi Edwards joins us from the Raider facility. We'll go out to him in a few minutes, and he had a great view of OTAs. He'll tell us exactly what went on there. OTAs from Levi's perspective. As we are fired up today, Grimaldi's Pizza, the best pizza I ever had. Took mom and dad, sat outside the other day. Had the Brooklyn Bridge pizza. Fantastic. A little Caesar salad and a nice wine list. It's at Grimaldi's with all these locations in the Valley. Thanks, everyone. I am blowing off of YouTube. We'll go to radio with a couple of interviews. I don't like doing interviews on YouTube with that unless they're here so you can see them. And that's it. Thanks for that topic today. You helped out a lot here, better than the phones. No one has a landline. I agree. I have a landline. Landlines aren't expensive. You'd be surprised how cheap it is. All right. Hopefully everybody joins us tomorrow from 12 to 2. Again, tomorrow's a big day. My dad's birthday and my son's birthday. So it's kind of one of the most important days of my life, May 24th, on my dad and my son, my first son's birthday. So I'm going to celebrate that tonight and tomorrow, and I'll be back here with you on YouTube. Thanks for joining the live stream.